Ali here from Divine Mystery Designs. This is the first time I've used QuickTime Player, so I'm hoping we won't have any lag issues. Okay, so this image came from, I probably can't flick between my screens by the looks of it. I'm not sure. You'll know who you are. Sorry. Alright, so to start with, I've got camera open, and there is a little bit of a green cast going on here. Nice tie back. Can I say that? Thank you. Yes. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to see what auto does. I'm going to change it to auto, and then I'm going to warm through, and I'm going to, just because you had quite, it is a warm, your image is quite warm, but it's also quite green. Okay, so you could counterbalance that with a little bit of magenta and playing around with your sliders a little bit. In this case, I'm just going to go auto and work with that. And if I had a whole series in this, like 8 photos of the one type of prop, different angles, I probably would go back to auto if it wasn't correct. I've only ever had that problem when I've mentored someone in their studio and their colour balance was quite different to mine. They didn't have as much natural light, so theirs was very magenta. However, we defaulted to auto then because it gave us a better base to start at. In this case, I'm going to go to auto because it's not the same setting as mine. So I don't have custom Kelvins, but I custom white balance with a grey card every session. And my images are quite warm as I shoot. Anyway, so I'm going to go to contrast. I'm just going to pull it back a little bit. I'm also going to pull back highlights and whites. And I might just increase the exposure a little bit. So what we want to avoid, the reason I do that is because if I pull the preview on, there's quite hot spot areas here. And if I reduce on my contrast, it's not as bad. So it just gives you a nice even place to kind of start. Okay. And we'll warm it up and all that kind of stuff. There's that image from before. I'm just going to have a little bit of a play with your composition here. I also have my babies off center. But how I tend to like it is I would have them more in the, and rules are meant to be broken, so this is just what me personally, that if a baby's facing out, I would have them more up this end so that there's a little bit more of the story rather than them kind of looking off the page even though she's asleep. It gives you kind of this dead spot here. This is not a bad image, don't get me wrong, but composition-wise it's just different to what I shoot. So I'm kind of one of those people, either you have the whole head and more, but it's all about the balance too, because for me the eye line is the focal point, and at the moment the eye line's kind of dead center, and that doesn't work for my brain. So what I want to do is bring that a little bit closer to that right third kind of point. And you could crop it a lot tighter. We might do that. Oh, sorry, apologies. We'll do that again. You can see I've got this blue bit over here, which means it's off the picture. That's okay. If you've got CS6 or CC or whatever, you can use your content aware to make up the rest of the image. But it must be done on your background layer or it doesn't work. And if it's not perfect, I'm not going to be too upset. But it's done a pretty good job because you tend to blur the edges and stuff anyway. Okay, so this image is more about the baby, less about the bowl. So, okay, so there's your image, what it was with the bowl, which is still beautiful. The room's lovely. And I'm just gonna work on a tightly cropped one. Okay. All right. Sorry, I'm just... Those eyelashes are very, very delicate. Okay, so she could be a good candidate. Oh, I can't speak. It's Friday. For separation, frequency separation, not separation anxiety. It's Friday. So create your 2 layers of your background and turn the top layer off. Then go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Remember, we want to blur it to the point we just lose the detail, which is probably about there. And we turn our top layer on, go to edit, apply image, invert, go to your merge, your layer section, go to layer 1. In this case, we need to go add. And what you want, if you're not sure, just blend through in the blending area. It's generally add. It depends on whether your image is 8-bit or 16-bit as to what the settings change to. But it should look like a high-pass filter. And then go over to the blending mode for that layer and go to linear light. Select both of them, go to layer, go to group from layers, go to soft light, not hard light. Oh, this isn't giving me the options I normally had. Sorry, this is correct. Just we'll call it FS. Ignore that. I was thinking I was doing a new layer for Dr. Burning. Okay, so open it up and getting your lasso tool. You're going to start by selecting parts. Now she's got it easy for me. So as I said before on my previous Periscope video, is you don't want to just cover the whole thing. You still want all that shadow and some of those details. So I've kind of gone around it. I've still left the shape of the shadow of the nose and around the eyes and stuff like that. And then I'll come back and I'll do this side as well. Okay, so now you want to go to filter, go to blur, Gaussian blur. Now we're not trying to change the skin texture on this one, we're just trying to even out the tones. So her skin tones are actually pretty good, but we just want to kind of blur them, but you don't want to lose the shadow. Okay, so it's finding that balance. So now I'm going to very carefully not go near my eye line and do this side of her face. Oh, I also have mine feathered normally at 30, but I'm sitting at 15 because I totally forgot about it. Okay, so it's the changes at the moment are very subtle. So on that top layer, you're now going to go to your healing brush tool, and this is where all the fun begins. I'm going to find my mouse. Alright. So zoom in as close as you need to, just so you can do it well. You don't want, if you have a really big brush and you go, oh, this is really easy, I'll just copy that, then you're copying that huge section of of texture, and sometimes that's just a bit overpowering on your image. So I'm going back and we'll start that one again. So make sure you're on the top layer. So I normally kind of size it slightly bigger than the spots. And you do an area that doesn't need doing. Now, it's not going to fix your reds. All it's going to do is change your texture. And see all these little milky pimples? I'm not getting rid of them because I like those I keep those in my edit, in my images, just because I think it's really important part of showing how old a baby is, because they all have these, and I think these are quite sweet, whereas when they're the pussy little pimples, it's a different story. Okay, and I'm just reselecting near that area every time. So her skin's pretty good. She's got a few little flaky bits here and there. And this is perfect for that. And this just means you can also get a nicer natural looking edit without it looking far too processed. I don't know, my work compared to lots of people looks far too processed, but that's just my style and I'm okay with that. Not everyone has to like it. Okay, just anything that's just going to catch your eye straight up, you know, that's just going to be a little bit distracting. So we'll turn it off. So as I said, it's pretty, you know, depending on the baby, depends on how full on it is. So I'm also going to go back to my lasso tool and I'm just going to do her arms and her hand and stuff just so it's all evenly blurred. And you could do, I mean, depending on how much you guys want to do, you could do all this little flaky skin stuff on her feet. But that amount of flakiness doesn't bother me. I might just fix the, just a little red spots, that's all. I feel like, it feels to me like my brush is rather watered down. It's not, it feels like it's not at 100%. I might have to have a look at that. Okay, so I'm going to collapse all these layers and then I'm going to start my edit. So the first thing I'm going to do is, she's not too red, but she's a little bit blue in spots. So I'm correcting the blues. And on a brush layer, and I will keep it at 100% for now. And at the moment, I'll get you to, you would just do the problem areas, okay? Because if you did the whole lot and then had to change it, you'd still have the problem areas. It's not as bad. And I say problem meaning they're just a little bit blurred. It's not a bad image at all. It's very cute. I actually find it really difficult to shoot mint. I love it, but pastels I really struggle with. So you can see at the moment that's quite obvious where I've kind of warmed her up. I'm going to go about reduce that to about 30%, and I will reduce this again. So you can see it's gradually warmed it up. That little hand over the back though I'm going to go in and do again. You can see that one's kind of evened up that warmth a bit more, and almost that whole section. So I'm just going to reduce the fill a little bit just to soften it. The whole image I'm going to darken a little bit at the moment. Because of the way it's lit, you could get quite a moody feel out of it. Okay, so I'm going to darken it at the standard rate. I'm also going to go into brightness and contrast. I'm going to reduce the contrast down a little bit. Just to give me a little bit more even place to start. Alright, so I'm going to add some contrast back in now. But I am going to reduce this to taste. So I'm just going to bring the fill back about 50%. I'm doing a vignette. And I'll probably bring that back a little bit too. I am going to blow some edges. So I'm going to use my marquee tool and just kind of go with enough distance around baby. I'm going to blur. So just watch your hairlines and stuff like that. And then I'm going to bring it back 50% on both. It just softens it slightly. So if you're bothered, if this bothers you with the light, you could, you know, change that as well. Now she's looking a bit pink, okay, because I've done all those initial contrast adjustments and stuff like that. She's looking a bit pink. So now I'm going to lighten my skin reds. I'm going to go over that whole little body. You know, I still get excited when I see my tie backs in these. That one's a whole one. A lot of people still using though. I'm hoping to tie back this weekend. I need to create. It's killing me at the moment. So I put it on 100%, but I'm not going to leave it there because babies need a bit of pink in their skin. So I generally bring it back to about 50%. And generally look, you know, about the same on there. But I'm going to leave my fill up today because otherwise she's going to end up a bit pinky. Okay, I always use a soft warm wash. I change the white wash back to about 25 and the soft warm wash to about 15. I haven't taken many photos. So we started off here and now we're here. So it's going to be fairly subtle on her, fairly subtle. She does have purplish type eyelids and it's a little bit domineering on the image. So I'm just going to copy my background layer and using a soft brush at about 30%, use your colour picker and just pick a colour on there that's not that real, you know, purpley tone. It's a bit dark. Might just reduce the flow as well. And you may have to just go and select over here as well. This is going to... And it's just made it less obvious, less of a distraction. Lots of different people have lots of different ways of doing it. That's how I do it. And I'm okay with that. And I'm just going to go and change the fill back a little bit there. She has got a little bit of redness here. No, that's not working particularly well. Go back from that. I might actually go into using Kelly's Soft Baby Skin just to kind of smooth that out a bit. So once again, at 100%. Steering clear of hairlines and eyelines and edges, and as we do the eye, just be really careful you don't get that eye line or those lashes. I'll do a hand to the body, not perfectly, but you know, just so it all matches. She look funny with an edited head. Now I would never leave her like that. She looks plastic to me. So I would take her back to about 50%, somewhere around there. I want it to be noticeable but not too noticeable, if that makes any sense at all. Okay. Where are we at? Okay, we've done that. Okay, we're almost there. Like, we're pretty close now. So my general, when you go through and you're not thinking about it, because this is how you do it every single time, it's pretty quick. It's about 3 to 5 minutes an image, including frequency separation. So it doesn't have to take forever. Now, I've just hit the soft pink cheeks action, but I changed my colours. It's a little bit too hot pink for me. So, make sure you select your mask again. And being that she's a little girl, we'll give her some little rosy cheeks. And I'll just pinken up those lips a little bit. You don't want it to look too full on, but you can just bring that fill back a little bit if it's just a little bit too much. Okay, so I will sharpen her eyes up. It looks like her right eye is sharp, but her left isn't. So your focus has actually been on that further eye. It's not too bad, but it's not 100% sharp on this side. Once again, eyeline and eyelashes and lips, that's it. Now in the clarify, it's exactly the same. So using a really, yes, and this is why I should have a Wacom. Be using a Wacom in the stylus. I'm sorry, I really have a problem with mumbling, so I'm just trying not to sound boring to you all. And I'm sure there'll be people who are sitting there saying, oh, this is all wrong, this is all wrong, this is all wrong. And I don't really care. I've had enough criticism this week. And I'd probably just pull that back to about 80%. Because it's not, the angle's not overly dominating. This is what she was. So just kind of really just smooth that skin out a little bit. So I'm going to go up to adjustments and exposure. And I change my gamma in here to around 90. And it takes a little bit to catch up. And all I'm doing is basically creating my little haze layer. That tends to be my sweet spot, 0.0143 on the offset and around 90. But it depends on the image, but it's majority of the time is pretty spot on. And all it does is soften those shadows a bit. Now I haven't done a new layer on this to increase dodge and burning, to increase those shadows, because she's got good shadows and I don't necessarily think it needs it. So what I am going to do though is she still looks, I'm just going to do a warm up and I'm going to take that back 50% and roughly 50%. So it's very slight. And I haven't done what I normally do, so I go into my white balance, color balance, and go into shadows, and I increase my shadows to around 5 or 6, 7. And I go into my highlights, and I bring it more the cyan way, just because I want to balance it up without looking too red. I want my shadows to have that warmth, but I don't want my overall skin to have too much red. See, it's very, 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 very slight, but it does warm it up. And that's another one done. So I will post this up very soon. Yeah. Thanks, guys. See ya.